Hi guys, today we're going to be talking about artist Alma Woodsey Thomas and doing some art based on her work. So today we're going to need a pencil and we're also going to need something to color with. If you would like to use paint today, this is probably best for this project. If you don't have paint, you could use markers or crayons, whatever you do have at home to color with. So to get started, we're going to be using our pencil. And we're going to use our pencil to create some kind of abstract design. So we know an abstract design isn't really supposed to look like anything. It's just supposed to be some random shapes and lines. So I might start with a circle. And again, I'm drawing lightly because I'm going to be coloring over it. I might start with a circle. Maybe I want to do a few straight lines. Maybe a few more circles around my big circle. Maybe a wavy line. Maybe a smaller circle, maybe some straight up and down lines. Hopefully you guys can see this on camera. Maybe some more straight lines across, like that, just to get an idea of where you're going to want to put things today. Okay, then we're going to be working with our colors. Now, Alma Woodsey Thomas, her style is a lot of color, a lot of bright color, and not a whole lot of white space. She mostly fills her area. So I'm going to start, I think, with red. So I'm going to take my brush, get it nice and wet, so I'm using watercolor, so I need a lot of water, and I'm going to gently wiggle it into my red, and I'm going to make a little circle in the middle of my circle here. A little red circle. And then I'm going to switch colors because she doesn't really keep too much of her colors next to each other. She switches a lot. So I'm going to wash off my brush, nice and clean, wiggle it into my orange. And her technique when she does this isn't so much painting back and forth, it's by making little tiny dots, little sections. So I'm going to dot my brush. By pressing down, it kind of makes a more longer dot. And as you can see, as my paint starts to run out, they get lighter. And that's exactly what we're going for with Alma Woodsey's style. She starts darker, and they get a bit lighter. And I'm gonna go around and around and around. Okay? Again, I don't want to leave too much white space between each dot. So if you're finding you're leaving a lot of white space, go back and fill it in. Once it's getting too light, I'm going to go back, get some yellow, and keep going. Again, dot, space, dot, space, dot, space, dot, space, dot, space, dot, space, dot. I don't want my dots to touch too much. If they start running into each other, it's not a big deal. I don't want them to touch too much. I'm going to keep going around and around and around. This is how we do that with watercolor. If you have instead, let's say, marker today, we're going to do the same thing with marker. But instead, oops, that one's running out a little bit. Let me get a different one. Instead of doing dots with the point of the marker like that, I want to lay the marker down to get a thicker line that'll look more like her brush strokes. So put it down, do a little dot, follow along with my lines, and then keep going with this, following my dots. Switch colors. Ugh, that one was a bit hard. Again, we want them to be close together. We don't want a lot of white space between our dots. We want it to be mostly bright colors. Okay, now this project works best with watercolor, works pretty good with marker, but if all you have is crayon, You can do it with crayon too. We're just going to do a bit more back and forth motion. Okay, so when I take my crayon, I want to color back and forth to make these little kind of dashed lines, like we might see with her painting technique. Instead of pressing the brush down flat or pressing the marker down flat, you can't really do that with a crayon. So we're going to do some lines that kind of go back and forth. Like so. Again, we don't want a lot of white space. We don't want a lot of space between our colors, but we don't want them to touch. Each stroke should have its own space. Okay, and you're just going to keep going with this until your whole paper is filled up and there's no more big gaps of white space. You might have to go back if you notice a gap, go back and fill it, and that's okay if you need to do that. That's totally fine. Switch your colors often. You don't want a huge section of all the same color, because Alma played around a lot with different colors, putting them in different spots. So you can too. You don't have to follow your lines perfect exactly either. If you decide you had a line here but you want to keep going with a certain color, you're more than welcome to. Totally up to you. And go back to painting for a little while. Again, when we paint, press down, press down, press down, press down, press down, press down, press down. We're moving our brush and pressing it down. And it may take you some time to get used to the feeling of this. See, I just might want to move my brush. This is something that takes practice. You might not get it right away, and that's okay. We're learning. So notice I'm following my lines, going around in circles, not leaving a whole lot of space. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Looks like I just have a little bit more sky left to do. Almost done. If you've ever done mosaics before, it's kind of like a mosaic where we're putting down small little pieces to make a bigger picture. Only in this case, our little pieces aren't stone or paper. They are bits of color. If you think you're all done, take another look at it. Make sure that you filled in as many gaps as you could. Go back and check your work, and then you're all done. I hope you enjoyed this.